Some thoughts on life, nature, philosophy, yoga, religion, atheism, Buddhism, non-duality, art, music, and wellness. Mostly positive looks at things that will hopefully give you a moment to pause and a moment to take a breath. We're going to start today with a quote by Paramahansa Yogananda. He was probably most famously known as author of a book called Autobiography of a Yogi, which Steve Jobs famously handed out 500 copies at his memorial, or had 500 copies handed out at his memorial after he passed away. A very influential book. Yogananda is probably known as being kind of the father of bringing yoga concepts to the U.S. The first couple sentences of the Wikipedia say that he was Indian Hindu monk, yogi, and guru who introduced millions to meditation and Kriya Yoga. The quote that caught my ear was actually a little bit of a misquote. So I'm going to tell you the quote that caught my ear that inspired this podcast today, and also the actual quote. I'm going to talk about it for just a couple minutes. The quote, the way I heard it was, "The deeper the self-realization of a man, the more he influences the whole universe with the subtlety of his vibration." So this kind of jumped out at me. I like this concept and I want to talk about it a little bit. The actual quote is, "The deeper the self-realization of a man, the more he influences the whole universe by his subtle spiritual vibrations, and the less he himself is affected by the phenomenal flux." So the part about the subtle spiritual vibration is interesting, the addition of that. And also, the less he himself is affected by the phenomenal flux is also interesting. I'll talk about that for a second, then I'm going to go back to the beginning of the quote. The spiritual vibration, adding the word spiritual in there obviously brings this into more of a, mystical, supernatural kind of idea. And I think you can look at this from a sheerly practical standpoint, which I might talk about here, and also maybe on a quantum physical level. The second part is, and the less he himself is affected by the phenomenal flux. Also interesting, and I think it's basically saying that the deeper you are into your own self-realization, and I would say the underpinning of what this is talking about is also, he means, I think, through meditation and things of that sort of inner look and inner work, that the less you're affected by this, he says, phenomenal flux, just basically all of the just the sheer amount of fluctuation in our everyday life, of all these things that have a tendency to affect us and sort of are flying at us and past us. So those are important elements. The part that really caught my eye, my ear, is the deeper the self-realization of a man, the more he influences the whole universe by his vibrations. That is almost sort of ties in, the Bible says you reap what you sow. The Eastern philosophies are karmic in nature, so maybe in this life or the next, things that you do here affect your life. And so, this is a long-standing kind of concept in many religions, and you can look in philosophies, you can look at it from that standpoint, which is what he's doing here, and I think that's a valid way to view it. I think you can also look at it from a very practical standpoint. And I'll just draw the quick analogy of maybe we've all been this person or know somebody that every time you see them and you say, "Hey, how's it going?" They immediately have a whole tirade of negative things to say about life and the world around them, right? And that seems to be their whole perspective. And I think that that can be a self-fulfilling cyclical life. If that's how you view the world, how else is your life going to be? So this idea, I think, in that's probably coming through this message here and through this book, probably is that through self-realization, which in this context probably means one of the ways to get there is through meditation, that you can have a more grounded perspective on life and the things around you. In contrast to my earlier example, we've probably also all hopefully been or known someone who, when you see them and you ask them, how's it going? They seem to be genuinely positive about the world around them and seem to be in a headspace, a realization headspace, that there's good and bad in the world, and there's things that are difficult and things that are challenging. But the one choice we have is the response and the perspective that we maintain about those things. So without getting into quantum mechanics and the recent findings in quantum entanglement and things of that nature, it's an interesting thing to think about, that how you interact with your life and the things around you and the people around you and yourself, most importantly, probably, can have an effect, a rippling effect on the world around you, and according to Yogananda, the universe.